here today with a great entrepreneur named Dan Hermann, who has created a couple of companies now. And at Flowers, we've gotten involved with Dan doing some things together. But I'd like to share your story with everyone, Dan, from the beginning. And I mean from the beginning. So let's start with you were born a small child where?
I was born in Newton, Massachusetts.
And that's what got you back to your roots. And I know you're the middle child of three boys.
I am indeed.
That must have been a very quiet household.
Well, there was actually four of us.
Oh, yeah?
So I'm older brother, younger sister. My sister's 7 years younger. So my parents were certainly busy.
Sounds like it. But I know your entrepreneurial career kicked off when you were a Badger. That is, you went to school at the University of Wisconsin. Was that in Madison?
Yes, it was.
And I know that Meredith Weinberg, who works on our team, was a customer of your services. So tell us about your first business there at the University of Wisconsin, how it came about, what the business was, and what happened to it.
Sure. So right out of undergrad, I had the itch to start a company. I did not want to leave Madison. I really loved my years at the UW there, and we were thinking with a couple of friends of mine. We were just kind of brainstorming ideas of what we might be able to do. We did not have any money to start the company, so we really were kind of limited. We stumbled on laundry because we figured, hey, we had to, conquer this.
You say you stumbled on laundry. Was that because it was piled up in the corner of your room?
Well, I think that's part of it, because I lived in a house with 11 other guys in college, and laundry was a constant problem. And so it was a shared pain, I guess. And so we thought, we didn't know much about really doing laundry well, but we figured a lot of people would pay for the service. So we got started. Me and Reg, one of my closest friends, still to this day, we started this company, and we basically just started with household washer and dryer and just doing people's laundry. And we built it from there.
So something you hated to do yourself, you said, well, there must be a lot of other people who hate doing this too. So even though I hate doing it for myself, if I'm getting paid to do it, I might not hate it so much.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We figured there was demand, I guess, following the demand.
Solving a pain point.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And what'd you call this company?
We named it Lazy Bones.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
And tell us about the trajectory of the company. What year did you start it, and how did it go in that first year?
So this is way back. I'm embarrassed to admit, but 1992 was when we started this company. And I guess I'm proud to say that it's still there. It's still running. It's still profitable. So it has stood the test of time in that regard. We launched in Madison 92, and we expanded to Syracuse University, which would have been probably 96. And it's still at Syracuse University, doing very well. We later tried to franchise the business, which did not really work, but was a fabulous learning experience, and really shaped what became my next venture, which was Pay Nite.
Mm-hmm. So Reg still runs the business?
He does, yes.
And it's on several campuses now?
It is. It's on University of Wisconsin, Syracuse University, and it's also still running at University of Colorado Boulder.
Oh, great. Which begs the question, why not 50 campuses?
Well, as it turns out, there are a few challenges that hurdles that were very difficult to overcome. One of which was the universities themselves, which it can be very difficult to get agreements with universities. And so that took a long time to build that up. We have an agreement with the University of Wisconsin. We work closely with Syracuse University, and that really just helps everything to kind of run smooth and efficient. But without those agreements, it can be very hard to break into the market.
Sure.
And it just took a long time to get those agreements, which prevented us from being able to expand it as quickly as we really wanted to.
Now, Dan, why did you leave the business? Was it because you wanted to move back to Massachusetts?
Well, I did. I moved to Syracuse when we opened up there, and I really wanted to move back home. I actually ran it. We had some family tragedy that we went through. I lost my father when he was in his 50s, and shortly after my younger brother passed. And that was kind of
Ow.
yeah, that was a very difficult time for my family. And
Can't imagine.
and so I wanted to be closer to my mom, and I wanted to make a change. And then also, the laundry business is a good business in that there's always going to be more laundry. But I also felt like for me, it was probably time for a change.
So back in Massachusetts, I'm going to guess you're out at a party or at a bar, and someone says, "Hey, I brought in a painter, and we're going to do a project together." Am I guessing right? And if so, if not, tell me how it started, where the idea came from.
Yeah, not quite. So I went to a friend's birthday party. I was single late into my life, and I was in my early 40s, and I went to a friend's birthday party, which was in a painting studio, and there was a lot of friends that got together, and they were all going to paint, and it was just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I felt like it would work really well if we took it out of the studio and put it in a bar. I think because at that time in my life, I was very much social and going out, trying to make new friends, trying to build community. And this seemed like a very good avenue to do that. And we launched, we just found a local art student, Shannon Pan, who I've lost touch with. But anyway,
after this, I suspect you'll be hearing from Shannon again.
Yeah, maybe. I hope so. She was a dynamic person. But anyway, she agreed to do it. We held our first event in Boston, and actually it was in Cleary's bar, and in the downstairs.
An Irish bar in the Boston area?
Yeah, I know. It's
novel.
Shocking. Yeah, there was actually a blackout in Boston that very night, the first night. It was back in 2012.
Did you cause it?
I don't think so. Although I think it was like I don't even think there was a big storm or anything. I think it was a random failure of something on the electrical grid. But there was a blackout all over Boston except Cleary's bar. That was like, for some reason, I have still to this day have no idea. But the event went off without a hit.
It's clearly divine intervention. I don't know how you could have any question.
It did feel like it. Maybe it was I did have a drink or two, so maybe that's why it felt like divine intervention. But
so Cleary's bar, you decided, hey, I had a great experience at the friend's birthday party. I remember you saying when we chatted once before that you thought the art teacher wasn't quite attuned to the fact that what they were doing was supplemental and not the main act, that they didn't realize that the real act was the fun and the conversation and the community building and the sharing that was going on while they were doing the artwork. I think you mentioned that the art teacher might have been overzealous in the art side of it.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the community, people want to be with their friends, their family. They get out of the house, and the project, the painting, is really just the
excuse.
Yeah, the excuse, the activity that kind of shapes everything and really gets you in that. It lets you access a vulnerability relative to your friends and family, where you're not great at this, but everybody's trying, and that kind of opens things up. But I do think the host really kind of fades into the background, and they're just there to kind of help you along and make sure you don't fail. But it's really the interaction with others that makes it special, makes it fun.
Well, at Paint Night, what you do is you gather people, and that's what you're saying now is, yes, you're getting together to do something that involves painting, but it's secondary. It's fun. It gets you to do things you wouldn't have done otherwise. I think the fact that people are a little vulnerable when they're doing that, they're exposing their talent or lack thereof, all of which helps to lighten the atmosphere and the mood, so that people can relax and let their guard down and interact and have fun and get to know people better, make fun of themselves, perhaps, make fun of other people, and just have fun. And I think you tapped into, the mainstream of what life's all about, which is being social, getting together, letting your guard down a bit, being vulnerable and sharing those experiences with people so that you can invest in and build genuine relationships. The fact that you switch the venue from a studio to a restaurant or a pub in the community where people could have a glass of wine or so just helps that whole atmosphere. And I know, having been to several of your events, you can almost predict the volume in the room as the event goes by, because people at first are a little uncomfortable, then they not sure what it's going to, then you can see them physically just relax, and then you can see them go into overdrive and just have fun. And that fun lasts beyond the night, Dan. I see with social media, people are all posting about pictures of them with their new friends or their old friends or their cousins or anyone that they came with or new friends that they've made. They're posting their work. It has a magnification beyond that evening itself that is quite remarkable. What have you learned about the experience itself and your journey as to what makes it so special?
Yeah, you're touching on, I think, all the elements there. I think for people, it just gets them out of their comfort zone and lets them access that vulnerability in a way that feels really safe and good. And I don't know that everybody recognizes that in today's world, you really don't have organic opportunities to just meet people that you don't already know. It can be very hard.
Fewer and fewer opportunities. And in the COVID world, and now hopefully late or post-COVID, let's pray, world, it's all the more important.
Totally agree. Speaking for myself, but also just everybody that I talk to, I think feels similarly that community is important, and so for our events, I do think people are able to connect with each other and laugh and make fun of each other in a really safe way. And that just, I do think, opens up pathways. And then people are also often really surprised at how well their paintings come out. We even have people come who are very good painters and they just paint along with everybody else. So the ability of the activity to bring people together of just all different shapes and sizes in terms of their painting skill, but also in terms of their background and what they're doing. It's just a nice equalizer where everybody can just come in and do this thing that's just lighthearted and fun for a few hours with no pressure. And I think that's really worked well and resonated.
What year did you start Paint Night, Dan?
We started in 2012.
Mm-hmm. So you had a good run. I know you got the business up to 50 plus, 60 plus $1 million in sales.
Yep, that's right.
And then this thing came along called COVID. That couldn't have been very good for the business, Dan. Convening people who didn't know one another or did know some of the people in a room together during COVID. Can I guess that this wasn't great for business?
No, you're making me sweat just thinking about that time. It was such a stressful time. Not just for us, I'm sure for everyone, but we literally went to zero in terms of our ticket sales and everything else overnight.
All right, so you have this creative entrepreneur is in business now for 10 years, built up a multi-million-dollar business. It's cruising along, and all of a sudden, like overnight on March 11th, March 12th, and that Friday the 13th, boom, it goes to zero. What were you thinking?
Honestly, as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you can relate to this, Jim. Your first thoughts are your whole network of people who depend on your business for their livelihood. And for us, we had a staff, but then we also have artists out there that are working, and a lot of them, this is what they do full time. They depend on this. They are, in some cases, single mothers. They depend on it paycheck to paycheck in cases. So that was really scary to think through, because just to shut down the business just cuts off that revenue stream for people. And at least for me, that was really, really stressful and scary. And so we just were kind of thinking, how can we keep these people moving? There has to be a reason why people need these local artists and this kind of thing. How can we put that together in a way that still helps and still connects people, because it was also fairly obvious to me that going through the pandemic and having that kind of trauma and stress out there in the world for everybody, these kinds of things, art therapy and being able to connect with other human beings is just almost more important than ever. So that was really what was rippling through my mind. And we were able to pivot into virtual events. We were able to pick up and start doing our events over Zoom. And eventually we were able to also build up a nice corporate team building business that we did virtually,
sure.
which worked out very well and did help us to keep everything moving.
You did the pivot to digital. You did the pivot to corporate events because every business was trying to find a way to, how do I keep my people together? How do I work on the culture of this place? Everyone's working from home. Its productivity dropped. People's personalities were changing. Loneliness was an issue that all of us as employers and managers and team members were concerned about for ourselves, for everyone around us. How successful was that shift to digital?
We moved very quickly. We did manage to keep the business together. I wouldn't say it was as successful as we were with our in-person. I think our in-person was always at the heart of what we believed in. But the virtual worked pretty well, especially for companies. So we tried doing it public with ticketing. But really, the problem we ran into there was our business is really driven by local artists doing events in their community. And of course, virtual means that they can go everywhere with the events. So the best people in virtual were able to continue to run events, and we did have some revenue coming in through that angle. But it was the corporate team buildings that we really found our niche during the pandemic, because I do think certainly painting, but shared activities that you do over Zoom, they do really work to help people, to lower their guard. And there was a lot of benefits there for people too, because they didn't have to leave their home. They were not doing it with friends and family, but with coworkers. So that changed things. Whereas the public side of our business is in person, because you want to be with your friends and family and you want to see them and laugh with them and do all those things. But with coworkers, sometimes the travel and going out and the expense associated it doesn't work as well as the virtual. So that really ended up being a nice revenue stream for us during the pandemic.
We're late pandemic, hopefully post-pandemic, as I said. What's the business makeup now? You still have a virtual component, back in person, up and running as you were before. Where are you in that cycle?
Yeah, so we are not back to where we were before the pandemic, but we are building back our in-person. So we did lose a lot of our network because people's lives changed so much during the 3 years of the pandemic, but we've started building everything back. And I'm happy to say the in-person side of the business is growing again. We're adding 2 or 3 new artists every week, which is nice. And it's good to see people getting back together in this way.
What do you see on those new artists coming in? How many of them are still in the program 6 months after they start?
So, we get, in terms of applicants, we're getting a couple of hundred every week, which is a big number, but most of them don't end up really being the right fit. And so I would say we boil that down, and then for the people who get started, once they reach 3 or 4 events, they really don't leave. That really is the magic number where they start to get really hooked and they really love it, and they really go from there. And within those first few events, people do drop off.
So the ones who get to 4 events, they have the personality and the skill to organize themselves and to produce an event that people have fun at, which makes it fun for them. And financially, it's rewarding, they realize. And so now, once they cross that 4th event, 80% stick for a while?
Yeah, I'd say it's even higher than 80%.
Wow.
And I think it really also is that they get over their fears, that initial, kind of push out the door. And especially because you're leading an event. So there's a little public speaking worked in, which a lot of people are very afraid of. But once we get them over that initial hump, if they can get to those 4 events, they usually start to feel more confident and connection. And so it really works from there.
You mentioned that these people are not just the art teacher, they're the host. And those who have the personality that allows them to think and act like a host and realize their job is to manage the experience of the people who are attending their class and make sure they have a good time. Yes, we want to do a nice painting, but it really is about engaging, letting down your guard, getting to know other people, smiling. If it's a venue where you can serve a beverage, where they have a glass of wine, some snacks, some cookies, some cheese, something where they get to know other folks in a nice setting, I got to believe people are coming back, not just because they want to do a painting, not just because they have 3 more bare walls they'd like to put something on, but it's for the experience. It's for the camaraderie, for the deepening of existing relationships and initiation of new ones. Correct?
100%. And the good host, I think there's an empathy component where they can recognize what people are looking for. Some of them want to be left alone with their friends. Other people want them to introduce them or connect them with other people. And the good hosts, I think, have a lot of empathy to just pick that up and understand how to make this event about this evening community connection and fun.
What do you do to help your host, to screen for them, train them, to help them understand what their real job is?
Yeah, so we talk to them at length up front. We explain, we try to give them the bad news first about what's going to be involved, what the work is and what the events are like, just to make sure that they're really passionate and committed. And that's really one of the qualities we look for, is that passion. They really kind of want to do this. They want to share what they love with other people, because I do think, just like all the great teachers out there that we've run across in our lives on many subjects, I think it's the ones who really love their subject that can really deliver it. But it's really not about teaching as much as it's about hosting. And so we use that language. We do have them go to other people's events. And then it's just a process. And we survey our customers heavily. So we look very closely and we make sure that that feedback that comes from people who attend the events makes it to the hosts, so that they can read what other people are saying and they can start to evolve as a leader of those events.
Do you do anything on the front end to test for that? Are there any personality characteristics you've developed, or is that intuitive now and you've not yet gotten to that?
That's an interesting way to think about it. We've never really done the personality test to find it. We usually just, get people, whether or not they can do it, get out in front of people. I think that's the first hurdle. And then we're using the surveys. Our events are typically intimate, so they're usually 30 people or less. And that creates an environment where we can get feedback. But there isn't a huge amount of risk relative to the community. And again, they're not an entertainer like someone who will stand up on stage, like a stand-up comedian or something like that, where your evening is going to be ruined if that person is just not good at what they're doing. Our events are really about people getting together. So we have a little bit of time to get people up to speed and to kind of work with them as they are running events. And we do have a mentorship program built in, which allows other very successful, experienced hosts to connect with them. And we try to build community within our organization to really help deliver that.
That's great. How many paintings has Paint Night caused to be painted?
I mean, we have now, in terms of people who have painted, if you the gross ecosystem view, we've over 10 million people have painted paintings with us.
That's a lot of paint and a lot of canvas. And toward that, one of the things you do with your artist, with your host, is to facilitate them buying all the materials they need. So you teach them here's how you buy your materials, you warehouse it, here's where you get it. You provide all of that as a service. So 10 million paintings is a lot of wall covering, a lot of paint, a lot of brushes, a lot of canvas, and a lot of laughs.
Yeah, that's right. It's a big number. It's staggering to think about. But we hit that 10 million number during the pandemic, actually.
And I wonder how many images on social media you're responsible for.
Yeah.
A lot more than 10 million.
That's right. People get very proud of the paintings they create, and they do like to share it, which is nice.
Are you single-handedly trying to put the dating app industry out of business?
Maybe. I mean, I started the business when I was, as I mentioned, single, and I really just did not enjoy the dating apps. So maybe that was part of it. But and I do think paint night makes a great date. But
so it comes a time now. You said, "Wow, we're doing so well with 10 million paintings that we've produced." The concept is really about coming together to do something that's not in your normal routine, maybe has something artistic or crafty or creative about it. So you've experimented beyond paint. Tell us a little bit about that. And that resulted in a name change for the company.
Yeah, so we tried a bunch of different activities kind of organically. They come up. Most of our hosts are creative people. They're passionate about painting, but a lot of them are just passionate about creativity. So a number of different ones have come up through the years. We do a lot of plant night events, which is just terrarium making. So just using like succulents and soil. And it's similar in that, playing with the dirt kind of gets your mind like out of its normal zone.
It's definitely therapeutic.
It's definitely therapeutic, 100%. So that really was an event.
And it brings out the earth tones in the Cabernet.
Yes, right. That's right. Yeah, try not to get dirt into your wine. But that event has worked really well for us. We do a lot of those. We do all kinds of stuff. We do some knitting. We do finger knitting. We've started working with some flower arranging events.
Hey.
So, flower is a wonderful event. We make some ukuleles, and these often pop up organically. And then as we see traction, we really look to see whether or not they can work in different markets and things like that. But just events that are around something fun, something lighthearted, something that people can do in a couple hours that isn't really a class or anything elevated. It's just for fun.
So here we are, early 2023. How's the business now in terms of its recovery from pre-COVID, the struggles and challenges, mix, everything going to digital, remote? Now, are you a mix now? How's the business doing?
We are a mix. We are more in-person public again than corporate and private, which is a change because during the pandemic, we were about 75% virtual corporate events.
Right.
And we were 100% virtual throughout the pandemic. And now we're about 75% in person again. And that side of the business has been growing steadily. We started recruiting artists again about 8 months ago, and we've seen that really, really grow, and revenues have more than tripled since we started that process. So we're heading in the right direction. Things are starting to be fun again. We have one of the really fun things about this business for me has always been working with the artists who are really just generally fun, lively people. So it's really nice seeing that start to happen again.
Well, let's put a shingle out there and say who makes a good host. And these are businesses; they could be part-time or full-time. But if you looked out across the landscape, and for the folks who are listening or watching this, saying, "Hey, that's me," who makes a good host?
I think good hosts are first and foremost outgoing. So they like human beings. They want to be around people. They want to be social. I think that really helps. If you're really introverted as an artist, I think it can be a bad fit, even if you're a very talented artist. But you really don't need to be a talented artist to run a paint night. We can help you with the painting. You can't be afraid to paint, but if you like painting and you think you can learn, chances are that we can teach you. But really, it's about community. It's about wanting to be out in your community and connect with people. And we have successful hosts of all ages, of all ethnicities. So it really is broad. We have lots of men that work out great as hosts. So it's hard to pinpoint an exact quality or specific demographic. It's more just about people who kind of want to try something and want to get out there in their community and add something to their lives.
And what about geography? Are there areas you're stronger in? And I wonder what the contributing factors to those being strong areas. Is it the one strong lead dog who has a big success and might be in Charleston, South Carolina, and she attracts 3 other people that know her and say, "I can do that too"? What are the ingredients in making a market strong, and where are those markets?
Yeah, so we do very well both in urban areas and in rural areas. So that's really nice. We're all over North America, but we are dependent on the quality of the artist and the ambition of the local person as well. So some people just want to do this once a week, maybe once every few weeks even. That works for us. So we don't like to push people out of their comfort zone. But in other places, there's people who get really energized by the whole thing, and they really try to expand their business and think of it as a business. And that really works well for us also. And we do see when we have a dynamic person who really hustles and wants to build, that will improve the market pretty quickly. And we do have a lot of those people out there.
I'd like to change subjects a little bit here now, though, and talk about you. I understand there's been additions since we last chatted, and you have at home now under 5. Is it 3 boys?
3 boys. Yes, that's right.
So again, back to your childhood, not a quiet house.
No. It's not a quiet house over here. That's for sure. They're not in the house right now, even though I'm working from home today. So that's good.
There's a category, particularly at the Harry and David brand, for the whole company, but the team at Harry and David has embraced this category very, very strongly. And it always comes from something personal. And we had several people on our team at Harry and David out in Medford, Oregon, where we grow all our own food out there. We have thousands of acres of production out there. So we have big facilities and a lot of wonderful people working there. But several had different caregiving responsibilities, which elevated to our leadership there. The whole idea is that there's a community of people who are involved in caregiving that perhaps goes underappreciated and underrecognized. And the team at Harry and David wants to position themselves and help people who are in that circumstance as primary caregivers to understand those special needs, to recognize them, to applaud them, and to create support infrastructure for them. And you're a caregiver now, not only for your 3 kids with your wife, but for your mom. Tell us a little bit about how that's going.
Yeah, my mom, who is in her early 80s now, she has Alzheimer's. She's had it for, it's got to be 7 years now, which has been challenging. And at this point, her memory is really pretty well gone. She does still recognize me. She doesn't really understand who I am or why she recognizes me or who I am to her, what my name is. But she does still recognize me, which I'm thankful for. And it's a hard adjustment. So many people go through it.
You just hear it more and more every day.
Yeah, it's true. And I'm lucky she's right around the corner and she's in an assisted living facility. So that's really nice. It's a good place. We're fortunate in that regard.
Does she light up when she sees the boys?
She does. She really does. It's really a joy when that happens. She doesn't always remember who they are or why, but she, her personality just shines through. And I think, that's what it boils down to. The essence of what you get at this stage is that you still get that personality that shines through who she was, and also like her loves, her passion. Even though she doesn't have the memory to go with it, she still sees the little kids and gets so excited, and that's really nice.
Well, how nice that she's right around the corner and in a wonderful facility. How nice that you brighten her day by visiting regularly and getting to see your family and particularly the kids, because it's universal that she still lights up and recognize that must give you a lot of joy, you and your wife a lot of joy, to know that just bring the kids over is going to make her day. She might not remember it the next day, but in the moment, she's having a very positive experience.
Yeah, I think that's very true. Little things that they really matter. And when you go through stuff like this, how do you provide assistance to your mom who you can't help her with the disease, but there are ways that you can still brighten her life, and she does still have a life, which is something that I think everybody who faces Alzheimer's has to reconcile with. Like, what is a meaningful life, and where does it start? Where does it end? And, so for me to visit my mom, to bring the kids, to see her light up, that's what it is. And to a degree, I've reconciled with the fact that is a life. That is what she still has and what she still gives, because the feeling it gives to me is just really meaningful at this stage. And so I'm thankful for that.
Well, she's lucky that she has you and others in her support system around her. And you're lucky that you and the kids are learning lessons here that, even though they're very young, will stay with them for a lifetime. And we're learning from you, Dan. And for that whole caregiver community that you're emblematic of, is a special place for you. And some of us are very fortunate that we get to do that, that we get to be caregivers, because it can be a burden from time to time, but overall, it's not a burden to take care of others and to bring special meaning to their life. Dan, you're a terrific guy. From the first time I met you, I said, this is a classy guy, and so proud of the fact that you have a good relationship with the team at 1-800-Flowers. They're thrilled to be working with you, and is evidenced by the 2,000 tickets for the event for St. Patrick's Day. There's a need for us all to connect, to express ourselves, to deepen relationships we already have, to develop new relationships, to have fun, put a smile on our face, share it on social media, open up the kimono a little bit. You're doing good stuff. I'm glad the business is back on a good track. And I look forward to more conversations with you as we talk about the continuing success of Paint Nite, Yaymaker, and all the things that you do to bring joy into people's lives. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you so much, Jim. It was an honor.
All right. I hope you're going on to put the leprechaun outfit on now to conduct that big show for St. Patrick's Day.
My wife is making a corned beef for dinner tonight, which I'm very excited about. So.
And well, you should be. Thanks, Dan.